Welcome to Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation possible. You will get to hear from CSIA system integrators and industry partners to get a better understanding of how they help their clients solve process challenges and how they've earned success in their careers. Along the way, we will touch on system integration best practices, technology, trends, and challenges. Whether you are a manufacturer, end user, supplier, or system integrator, you will enjoy the insights these industry professionals bring to this podcast. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Lisa Richter, the host of Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation and processing possible. In today's episode, we're talking industrial automation with Lindsey Parker, who is the Manager of Business Development for the Industrial Network Infrastructure Market at Panduit Corporation, a global leader in network and electrical infrastructure solutions based in Tinley Park, Illinois. In this role, Lindsey creates strategic direction in coordination with product management and engineering while defining the programs and sales enablement tools required for success. In addition, she leads the business development team, setting direction across strategic marketing, supporting local marketing events, business planning, and sales enablement and engagement. Previously, Lindsey has held a variety of roles during her tenure in the network infrastructure industry, including business development in the data center, enterprise, and industrial network market segments, product management, and large corporate account sales. Lindsey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa.
Let's start with the basics. How did you end up where you are in terms of your career?
Yeah, so it's really funny. I totally fell into this space. I went to school for public policy, which don't do that, guys, because there's not a whole lot of jobs out there in that field. I had hoped to have a career in local government. I took a job at Panduit to pay my bills after graduation as a time filler while I was looking for something else, and I ended up loving it, and here I am still here today. So, I spent the last 8 years in network infrastructure, and as you mentioned, I've had various roles in product management, business development, sales, all that kind of fun stuff, working really across all different kinds of market segments. So everything from hyperscale data centers to enterprise infrastructure for healthcare and education, and then finally in the industrial space. So I've been in this world now for really only about a year. I'm one of those people that has come over from the IT side, and I've really enjoyed it so far. So I'm looking forward to getting more involved in this space and learning from all of you. But it's been a fun journey so far.
Panduit, how did it begin and evolve over the years?
So Panduit's been around since 1955. We're a privately family-owned company, and we were founded in the garage of Jack Caveney, who is our founder in Midlothian, Illinois, which isn't too far from our current world headquarters. So we've grown up a lot, but we haven't moved too far in terms of the location. Jack's first product was the Panduit wiring duct, which is actually where our name comes from. So panel conduit was the product. So the first part of panel and the second part of conduit makes up Panduit. So we've really been in that automation space since day one. When it comes to the network infrastructure and industrial automation, we started our network business back in the 90s, and we were primarily focused on copper cabling infrastructure for data communications at that point, right? It was just starting to come out into the market. And it wasn't really until the mid-2010s that we started to focus on industrial network infrastructure. And this space really allows Panduit to leverage our strengths from our history in the electrical and OEMs side of the world, as well as our expertise in network infrastructure. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for Panduit.
I'm glad you explained the name because I've always wondered. And now that you say it, it makes so much sense, but I never made that connection. And go ahead.
It's funny, if you pay attention to how we name things, we like to smash two words together a lot. So we've kept that trend going.
So it's like a little Easter egg hunt now. Every time you hear another name, you have to stop and think.
Exactly.
Does Panduit specialize in any industry or product or discipline?
Yeah, so we're all over the place, but we have two main business areas. We have industrial electrical infrastructure, which is the electrical side of our house. servicing the EPC world, oil and gas, control panels, OEMs, that kind of thing, with cable ties, cable cleats, lugs, that type of infrastructure. And then we have our network infrastructure side of the business, which is where my team falls, and we specialize in data communications, right? So copper and fiber cabling infrastructure, racks, power distribution units, that type of thing, for both the enterprise space, the industrial space, and the data center.
What suppliers does Panduit partner with?
We have a few strategic alliances. So Rockwell Automation is one of our big partners, as well as General Cable, who is now owned by Prysmian, and Cisco. We also have lots of technology partners through the different areas of our business, right? So Epson is one of them, Axis Cameras, so lots of those types of partners as well.
How has Panduit grown or changed in the past year, and what do you expect for the company in the next 12 to 24 months?
It's funny because we've all been thrown this curveball of COVID-19, right? So that aside, Panduit really is perpetually in a state of change, which may sound bad, but in reality, it's really cool, and it's a great place to work because of it. I've been fortunate to work for this company for the past 8 years, and there's not a day goes by where Panduit is standing still, waiting for the world to catch up with us, right? We're always moving and changing and adapting and looking into new areas. And the company's always been really strong in that research and development space. But lately, we've put a re-emphasis on innovation, and that's really been probably in the past 18 months. What's most interesting about that is that there's still certainly a strong effort around product and technology innovation, but we're now looking at things like business innovation, which is, that's really exciting to me because it's a space that a lot of technology companies don't necessarily look to a lot of times. Something that we've done recently is to merge our industrial and enterprise businesses, which for all of us, right, gives way more ammunition to that IT OT conversation, because we now have those people who are experts in both the IT and the OT space sitting together, working together day in and day out, and working on those problems that exist between those two types of organizations. So I really expect that to drive a lot of synergies out in the market in the next 12, 24 months. In addition to that, I think we're all going to be in the same boat for the next year or so while we navigate this changing business environment. For Panduit, and I'm sure for all of our customers and partners as well, it means finding new ways to communicate to all of you and to our customers to continue to bring that value. There's going to be continued growth in the industrial automation space while some of those other markets lose steam. So we're kind of shifting more emphasis into this world. We've been harping on Industry 4.0 and automation for years, right? But COVID to all of us is likely the catalyst that makes our jobs easier and requires less of a sales pitch than we've had to give in years past.
That can be said across the board, from everything from ordering a pizza to, the factory floor. This COVID-19 has really accelerated a lot of digital transformation, good or bad, I guess. But
exactly. Here we are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Figure it out.
What advice would you give a prospective customer researching you or Panduit versus a competitor?
So Panduit has been known for quality and innovation for years, which are obviously two very important qualities for purchasing infrastructure that are supporting mission-critical applications. And those are a given for us, right? We're always going to be quality and innovation. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Panduit is full of people that really and truly care about your success, about our customers' success. And I think that's what really sets us apart. And that's not something that you can find on a web page, right?
Yeah.
But that mentality really does drive our daily behavior throughout the organization, and it comes from our culture of wanting to solve problems. And sometimes that turns into a product innovation, or it turns into an engagement with a customer where we're walking the plant floor and helping them identify potential issues or responding effectively if something goes wrong with an order, right? So it's both that product innovation and also just the relationship side of things and helping to solve those problems. That's what really sets us apart. You can buy a copper patch cord from Amazon, which don't do that, please, anybody. But you're not going to have this full support of a really top-notch global organization full of people that care about supporting that purchase. And that's what sets a company like Panduit apart from anybody, where you can just go buy a consumable off the internet.
Why, in addition to that, why do you think your customers return to you project after project?
I think it really does go back to the people element and that personal relationship. Um, you know, we get the job done. People know that Panduit gets the job done, but we're also always looking for ways to help get it done easier, faster, better for the customer, right? So people trust Panduit to provide quality product and then back it with that top-notch talent.
Tell us about your SI partner program.
So we have a really great partner program called Panduit One. And we have 3 tiers of partners in that program: silver, gold, and platinum, which, that's based on business dollars with Panduit. Like everybody else has a program around that. But the other cool thing that we do is that we classify and structure our program around competencies. And for us, that means that as a systems integrator, for example, you're getting a totally different experience with the program that a contractor would, because we know that your business requirements are different and the relationship with Panduit is different, right? So the program is structured in that way to enhance the experience for each type of partner. The other really cool thing that we do within our systems integrator program is we provide training on how to do physical network infrastructure assessments and designs. And this is a major gap in the market. And so it enables our partners to go fill that gap for a customer where we have really strong engagement and a logical design. And the systems integrators really know the controls, infrastructure, and networks. That's your powerhouse where you guys thrive. But our training kind of marries those two things together to fill in the gap, right? So that's something really unique that Panduit's program offers to system integrator partners.
What kind of trends and challenges are you seeing in the industrial automation industry right now?
The biggest to me, and that continues to be a problem, is still that IT OT convergence and getting those two stakeholder groups to sit down at the table and see eye to eye, right? They still have conflicting interests. And so that remains a challenge for all of us. When it comes to digital transformation, right, that's a huge term and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And it encompasses so many different areas of a business, right? So how do you wrap your arms around that and boil it down to, this is what IT is responsible for, this is what OT is responsible for, and here's how we work together. In addition to that, right, how do you calculate the ROI off of that that justifies the expense for all of the technology that's involved? So it really comes down to identifying what those business outcomes are that you're trying to achieve. What data do you need to achieve those, make the decisions around those business objectives, and then figuring out what technology to invest in to get there. Now, when it comes to decisions around technology, that's another challenge, right? There's some weighty promises that are being thrown around out there when it comes to things like augmented reality and 5G, these big, powerful technology trends that are happening right now. It can be really difficult to wade through some of the marketing mumbo jumbo that's out there and decide what's best for your organization. And that's a lot of times where the systems integrator comes in and can help make those decisions and say, hey, this is going to work with what you've already got, or nope, that's absolutely not going to work, right? That's the value that the systems integrator community brings. And some of that technology is totally cool and provides a lot of value, and other things like 5G is really cool and could provide a lot of value, but still so fuzzy about how we actually get it done, especially in a manufacturing environment. Some other challenges that we see, the continued migration to Ethernet, it's become a lot easier, but how do we do that in a cost-effective manner, right? A lot of these legacy protocols are running off of, 18 gauge, two-wire copper, and the upgrade to 4-pair Ethernet cabling can be a little bit expensive and cumbersome for people. So there's a new technology out there, and hopefully you have all heard of it. I think we just did a webinar with you guys on single-pair Ethernet, and Panduit sees single-pair as the path forward to really get Ethernet migration all the way down to the machine level. So I think that's going to be a game changer for all of us. And then finally, security, right? That's the big one. Probably issue number one, I should have started with that. It really goes back to IT versus OT, and they have different definitions of security. So getting everybody, again, at the same table and just hammering out what are all of our requirements and how do we get this done together is the challenge. We got to figure it out.
In your opinion, what's the biggest challenge facing the automation marketplace today and in the future?
So I think it comes back to that ROI, right? I mean, there are so many things that we could do and so many cool things that everybody wants to do. But getting the organization to buy in is critical. And I think I've read a few studies now. I think McKinsey has one out there that says something like 70% of digital transformation initiatives fail. And there's two main reasons that I see for that. The first is they don't have the right people in place to drive the program. Right, you need an internal salesperson to facilitate all those conversations, and then not having a solid ROI and a plan to get there. So again, that means what are the business objectives we're trying to achieve? What's the data that we need to collect, and how do we collect it to make those decisions? And it's very hard to get there, right? It's not easy.
What makes Panduit optimistic about the future of the automation industry?
So we know there's tons of data out there, right? This is a growth market, and one of the fastest growing markets for Panduit in our ecosystem. So ultimately, right, there's a lot of aging technology out there in industrial automation and a lot of business drivers pushing manufacturing towards automation. Now, we said before that COVID is probably the catalyst that speeds this up a little bit, but it's true, right? If you think about trying to operate with fewer people on the floor, or lights out production, those types of things, automation is critical for making that happen. So that's where Panduit, our focus remains here, because we know that the technology drivers are out there, the business drivers are out there, and we can be the enabler for that, right? Physical infrastructure is the foundation for all of that.
What would you say is the biggest benefit of CSIA membership for Panduit?
So CSIA really, you guys provide a direct connection to our partner ecosystem, which is awesome. It's really beneficial when it comes to delivering training on on any new technologies, new products, and it also, an industry group like CSIA gives Panduit the ability to scale our messaging to a critical group of integrators that help us take our solutions out to the market. Systems integrators really are the group that makes digital transformation possible. So having access to you guys as a group to be able to speak to you and understand all of your challenges and how Panduit can help the systems integrator community is absolutely critical to us.
From your supplier perspective, why should a prospective customer hire a CSI integrator member?
So like I mentioned, right, SIs are critical to making that technology investment in automation work for a customer. Without the SI community, customers really are left floundering with how do you make it all work? Because Panduit makes one thing, Rockwell makes another thing, right? There's so many vendors out there, and how do you make sure it all talks together? And then you layer in software, and it's very complicated. There are very few companies in the world that know how to do it and do it well, right? So CSIA is that common ground where systems integrators can go and learn, and we can recommend a CSIA integrator member because we know that you guys are kind of the sounding board for the organization or for the community, and you're providing training and making sure that the people are educated and sharing best practices and all of that, right? So to an end user, that means that you've got an integrator that's plugged in and aware and well trained, and you can rest assured that they're doing good work.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you the hardest question of the whole interview.
Oh boy.
And that is, what is the best advice you could give your younger self just getting started?
This is funny. So like I mentioned, I went to school for public policy. So my first piece of advice to young Lindsey would be to pick a career in engineering. And I'm not joking here, right? I didn't have any guidance when I was graduating high school and deciding on college and career paths. That's not to no fault of anyone in my life. They were just letting me be me and make my own decisions. But I think engineering really does set you up for a successful career in the future. But more important than that, right, there's two lessons that I've learned and still have to remind myself of every now and then when I get really worked up about something, right? The first is do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. It comes down to earning trust, right? So you have to earn the trust of your peers, your customers, your family. And that's critical for success, both personally and professionally. So staying accountable is the key. The other thing, which you learn over time in this industry, is don't burn bridges.
I think that's probably true for most industries, right?
I think so. And I think something that, what I've experienced is that you will work with the same people over and over and over again in this industry. So first and foremost, once you're in here, you can never get out, right? And then second of all, you're going to work with the same people 3 or 4 times over in different roles. So it comes back to being accountable and just being a good person to the other people that you have to work with, because you're going to see them again in some way, shape, or form. So.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Talking Industrial Automation. If you are interested in learning more about Panduit or Lindsey Parker, you can find them on the Industrial Automation Exchange at www.csiexchange.com. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Lindsey, for joining me today.
My pleasure, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also help others find us by leaving a 5-star review and sharing your favorite episodes with colleagues. Thanks for listening to the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. Thanks also to bensound.com and Wistia for the music bumpers. Until next time.